I know what you're thinking already. Wow, what a monster. I'd never say that to my husband. I'd deserve to be thrown out if I did. I get it. Believe me, I have said worse to myself in my own head than anything you could write in the comments. But before you decide I deserve everything that happened, just listen. Because that sentence, "I wish I'd married my ex instead," didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of months of pressure, stupid expectations, and me trying to be someone I'm not, until one moment where my mouth moved faster than my brain. And now I'm standing on the porch of the house I used to live in, staring at my own suitcase like I'm a guest who stayed too long. The suitcase is half open, like it was packed in a rush. One of my sweaters is hanging out of the zipper. My favorite jacket is folded on top. And there's a note taped to the handle in his handwriting. Go to the man you should have chosen. If you pause the scene right here, if you screenshot this exact moment, I look like the villain. Mascara smudged, hair a mess, hands shaking. One stupid sentence echoing in my head like a siren. I pick up the note. I read it once, twice, 3 times. My voice comes out small, almost childish. It was one moment, I whisper, one slip, and suddenly I'm out of my own home. I look from the suitcase to the door. He's inside. I know he is. The lights are on. I can see the shadow of him moving in the hallway. But the lock doesn't turn. The door doesn't open. So if you're ready to call me garbage, go ahead. Just, at least hear what led us here. Because trust me, no one is more miserable about what I did than I am. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. Okay, now let me tell you how I destroyed the one person who actually chose me. The fight didn't start with my ex. That's the first thing I need you to understand. We weren't sitting there reminiscing about old relationships. He didn't ask, "Do you miss him?" And I didn't answer with some poetic dagger to his heart. It was dumber than that. We were arguing about groceries. Groceries. Let that sink in. It was a Tuesday. I remember, because Tuesdays were his late work days. He'd texted that morning. "Hey, I'll be home around 8. Can you maybe plan something easy for dinner? I'm exhausted already." Totally reasonable, right? Except my day had also been a disaster. My boss had snapped at me for something that wasn't my fault. A client had moved a deadline up for no reason. I'd gotten stuck in traffic. My period was starting. My back hurt. Everything was just heavy. When I got home, the kitchen was still a mess from the night before. The trash was full. The sink had dishes. The fridge looked like a crime scene. Half a lemon, a jar with 3 olives, a sad piece of cheese wrapped in crinkled plastic. I stared at it and thought, Of course it's on me again. I know. I could have texted him and said, "Let's order takeout." I could have said, "Can you grab something on your way?" But instead, I went full martyr mode. He's tired, I'm tired, but I'm the one who still has to think for both of us. I'm the one who has to remember the groceries, the house, the everything. So I dragged myself to the supermarket. I walked around on autopilot, throwing things into the cart, not even checking prices, just wanting it to be over. Pasta, sauce, salad, chicken, yogurt, coffee he liked, snacks he liked. It was always like that, me remembering his preferences like second nature and resenting him for how easy it came. By the time I got home, I was exhausted and angry, and I didn't even know who I was angry at. Him, my job, the economy, myself, all of it. I cooked, I cleaned, I put everything away. I set the table. He walked in around 8:30, shoulders slumped, tie loosened, looking completely drained. He smelled like work and rain. He dropped his bag by the door, kicked off his shoes, and when he saw the table, he smiled a little. "Wow," he said, "you didn't have to do all this." I know, I said, sharper than I meant, but someone has to. He paused. It was such a small pause, but I felt it. That tiny moment where the air shifted from thank you to what's wrong with you. Okay, he said slowly. Rough day? Just eat, I muttered, sitting down. We started with small talk, work, traffic, the weather. It was fragile and boring, and I could feel my own patience dissolving like sugar in hot water. Then he said it. That one simple question that cracked the whole thing open. Can I ask you something? He said, putting his fork down. Do you still want this? Our life? Our marriage? He didn't say it accusingly. He sounded scared. And that's the part that haunts me. He wasn't attacking me. He was exposing his vulnerability. He continued, You've just been so distant, irritated. Everything I say seems to make you mad. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I could have said, I'm just stressed. It's not about you. I could have said, I love you. I'm just overwhelmed. I could have said 1,000 things. Instead, I felt cornered. Do you know that feeling when someone asks you a serious question and you're not ready to be that naked with your emotions? When they ask, what's wrong? And your heart screams, everything, but your mouth says, nothing. He was sitting there, tired and soft-eyed, asking for honesty. And my brain, for some reason, went looking for the sharpest, most dramatic sentence in storage. So, he repeated, do you still want this? Us? Our marriage? I laughed. That horrible defensive laugh that isn't actually funny. Maybe I should have married my ex instead, I said. Silence. The fork slipped from his fingers and clinked against the plate. He didn't shout. He didn't slam his fist on the table. He didn't throw his drink or storm out. No, he went completely, terrifyingly still. His eyes changed, like something blew out inside him, a light extinguished that I didn't even know I depended on. If he had yelled, I could have yelled back. If he'd called me names, I could have snapped into defensive mode and doubled down. But he did something worse. He just stared at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. And I realized, too late, that the words had already left my mouth and were now sitting between us, growing teeth. I didn't mean it like that, I blurted immediately. It was just a... He raised a hand. Not aggressively, just enough to tell me to stop. I kept going anyway. It's just an expression, I said. You know when people say, oh, maybe I should have done this instead, or maybe I should have taken that job. It's like that. I'm not saying I actually want him. He blinked once, slowly. Okay, he said. But his voice was not okay. Seriously, I insisted, heat rushing to my face. You're taking it the wrong way. We were arguing. I was frustrated. It came out. People say stupid things when they're tired. He nodded. But it wasn't a you're forgiven nod. It was that numb, mechanical nod people do when they've just heard something they know they can't unknow. The rest of the dinner was quiet. He finished his food. He took his plate to the sink. He said, I'm going to shower, and disappeared down the hallway. I sat there, staring at the table, replaying the words in my own head. Maybe I should have married my ex instead. Did I mean it? No. Yes. Not in the way it sounded. Do you want the truth? I didn't want my ex. I wanted leverage. I wanted my husband to feel a little insecure, a little scared to lose me, a little more grateful to have me. I wanted that prove-it energy. Instead, what I did was detonate a bomb under his sense of being chosen, and I didn't realize how deep it went for him until much later. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. He always made coffee. That was our thing. Whoever woke up first made it. But on his work days, it was usually him. He was in the kitchen, already dressed in his shirt and slacks, tie draped around his neck, scrolling something on his phone. Morning, I said, trying to sound casual. Morning, he replied. He didn't look at me. That was the first crack. How did you sleep? I asked. Fine. One word, no warmth, no follow-up. I reached for my mug, but he'd already poured one and pushed it toward me without eye contact. Mechanical. Like a waiter, not a husband. About last night, I started. It's fine, he said too quickly. No, I said it's fine, he repeated, a bit sharper this time. He kissed my cheek. It landed somewhere between my ear and my hair. It was a gesture more than a kiss. Then he grabbed his keys and left. All day, I told myself I was overreacting. He's just tired still. He'll cool off. He knows I was just being dramatic. I even convinced myself that maybe a little jealousy would be healthy. Maybe he'd try harder. Maybe he'd prove something. Maybe this would be a wake-up call for both of us. You have to understand, I grew up in a home where people said things they didn't mean all the time. My parents weaponized words. I should have never had kids. Maybe I'd be happier without you. If I'd married someone else, my life wouldn't be like this. No one ever actually left. The words bounced around the house, caused damage, but the furniture and marriage stayed. So, in my twisted little emotional dictionary, words were flexible, sharp but temporary, hurting but not final. I didn't understand that for him, it was different. For the next few days, he was polite. Polite. That word should never describe your spouse. He asked if I'd eaten. He asked if I needed anything from the store. He said thanks when I handed him his lunch. But the warmth was gone. The teasing. The little inside jokes. The random hugs in the hallway. The hand that used to reach for mine on the couch stayed planted on his own thigh. We'd go to bed, and he'd lie on his side of the mattress, scrolling his phone with his back half turned to me. I'd stare at the ceiling, feeling like there was an invisible wall between us. One night I finally snapped. "This is ridiculous," I said in the dark. "Are you really going to punish me forever for one sentence?" He didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice was calm. Too calm. "I'm not punishing you." "Then what are you doing?" I demanded. "I'm processing," he said, trying to figure out what it means that my wife says she should have married someone else. I didn't say I should have. I said maybe, I argued, grasping at technicalities. And it was in the middle of a fight. Everyone says messed up things when they're emotional. He turned to look at me then. The light from his phone screen softly lit his face. His eyes were tired but steady. "I don't," he said. "That shut me up." "I don't say things like that," he repeated quietly. "Not to you, not about you. Not even when I'm angry. Do you know why?" I swallowed. "Because I chose you," he said. "And I never wanted you to doubt that." I could have cried right there. I almost did. But instead of letting that sink in and saying, "I'm sorry, I was wrong," I did what I always do when I feel guilty. I deflected. "You're being dramatic," I insisted. "You're taking it way too literally. I don't sit around daydreaming about my ex. If I wanted him, I'd be with him." "Would you?" he asked. The question cut deeper than I expected. "Of course," I snapped. "I'm with you, aren't I? I married you." He nodded once. "Yeah," he said. "You married me, but that's not the same thing as choosing me." I didn't understand what he meant at the time, the difference between marrying someone and choosing them every day. I do now. But back then, all I heard was criticism, and I reacted like a wounded animal. "If you want to sulk forever over one comment, be my guest," I said, rolling over. "I'm done apologizing." For the record, I hadn't actually apologized yet. Not properly, not once. A week later, I went for coffee with my friend Mia. She's the one friend who tells me the truth, even when I don't want to hear it, which is both her best and worst quality. We were sitting by the window, cups between us, steam curling up like little ghosts. I'd been complaining about how distant he was, how cold, how closed off. "He barely touches me anymore," I said. "He comes home, eats, scrolls, sleeps. No cuddling, no joking, no flirting. It's like living with a roommate who pays more attention to his phone than me." Mia stirred her drink thoughtfully. And this started when? She asked. I hesitated. After a fight, I said vaguely. What fight? I tried to brush it off. Just stupid stuff, groceries, chores, stress. He asked if I still wanted the marriage, and I said something dumb. Whatever, he knows I didn't mean it. Mia arched an eyebrow. What exactly did you say? She asked. I took a breath. This was the first time I'd said the actual words out loud to someone else. I might have said, I picked at my napkin, that maybe I should have married my ex. Her spoon froze halfway to her mouth. You what? It was in the middle of a fight, I rushed. I was tired and he was pushing, and it just came out. I don't actually want my ex. I was just trying to hurt him, she finished. I glared. No, I was trying to express my frustration. By comparing him to someone you chose not to be with, she said flatly, and saying maybe that person was the better option. It was just a figure of speech, I insisted, hearing my own excuses get weaker and weaker. Like when people say, maybe I should have stayed single, or maybe I should have moved to Italy. It's not literal. Mia just kept staring at me. What? I snapped. She sighed. Look, she said, I love you. You know that. But if my boyfriend ever told me he should have married his ex, I would never, ever unhear that. Ever. Every time I looked at him after that, I'd wonder if he was mentally comparing us, if he was picturing her, if I was just his second choice. I shifted in my seat. You're making it sound worse than it is, I muttered. I don't think I am, she said. I think maybe, for once, you're making it sound less bad than it actually is. I hated her a little in that moment, not because she was wrong, because she was right, and I was not ready to face that. So what? I said defensively. He's just allowed to completely shut down now, to freeze me out, to stop touching me, to walk around like a ghost because of one sentence. I'm not saying he's handling it perfectly, she replied softly. But can you blame him? I opened my mouth to say yes, that he was being dramatic, that men say worse things all the time, that everyone thinks about their past relationships now and then. But the words died on my tongue. Instead, I stared out the window, watching people walk past who weren't currently ruining their marriages with their own mouths. Do you regret saying it? She asked eventually. I hesitated. I regret the consequences, I said finally. She stared. That's not the same thing, she said quietly. After that coffee, I went home and decided I would fix things, my version of fixing things. Not by apologizing properly or owning what I'd done, of course. No, that would have been too simple, too honest. Instead, I did what I had always done in relationships. I tried to smooth over emotional damage with gestures. I started cooking his favorite meals again, the ones that took time and effort, slow-roasted chicken, his favorite pasta, the dessert his grandmother used to make that I'd had to learn from YouTube. He ate them. He said, "This is good." But his eyes didn't light up the way they used to. I put on dresses he'd once complimented, even just to sit at home. I did my hair nicely, wore perfume he liked, made sure my nails were done. He would look at me and say, "You look nice." That was it. Before, he'd pull me close, kiss my neck, make some stupid joke that still made me feel wanted. Now his eyes looked tired, almost cautious, like he was afraid to invest more of himself into something that had already told him it might prefer a previous model. One night I lit candles in the bedroom. Actual candles. I put on music, slid under the covers in lingerie I had bought when we first started dating. He came in, eyes widening a little. "What's this?" he asked. "Can't a wife want her husband?" I said, trying to sound playful. He smiled then. A small, sad smile. He sat on the edge of the bed and ran a hand through his hair. "Of course she can," he said. "She just probably shouldn't tell him she wishes she married someone else first." The words landed like a stone in my stomach. It was the first time he'd referenced it directly since that night. "I don't wish that," I said quickly. "You're twisting my words." I said maybe, and I didn't mean it. Can we please stop going back to this? How? He asked quietly. How am I supposed to just not go back to it? You said it. You can't unsay it. I can't unhear it. I felt cornered again. You chose me, he said slowly. Or at least I thought you did. Now I'm sitting here wondering if I'm just the consolation prize, the safe choice, the backup plan after the real love story failed. There is no real love story, I snapped. My ex and I were a mess. We fought constantly. He cheated once. We barely had money. It was toxic. You know this. So why did his name come out of your mouth when I asked if you still wanted our marriage? He asked. I didn't have a good answer for that. The real answer, because I wanted to hurt you just enough that you'd try harder, was too ugly to say out loud. Maybe because I'm human, I said instead. Maybe because I'm not perfect, and I say stupid things when I'm pushed? He nodded, staring at the floor. I don't want you to be perfect, he murmured. I just wanted to be enough. The worst part? Hearing him say that didn't immediately make me collapse into tears and apologize. Instead, my brain scrambled to protect my ego. So I'm the only one who's ever said anything hurtful in this marriage? I shot back. You've never made a comment that stung. You've never said something you regret. I've never told you I should have married someone else, he replied calmly. No. Silence. He stood up, blew out the candles one by one, and said, I'm really tired. Let's just sleep. We did. Back to back. Do you know what's funny? I used to roll my eyes at those relationship affirmations people posted online. The ones that said things like, never say something in anger that you can't take back, or words can cut deeper than actions. I thought, people are so sensitive. Now I watch those reels and want to go back in time and slap the phone out of my own hand. Weeks went by. His distance became the new normal. He was never cruel, never mean. He didn't insult me or punish me with petty remarks. He just withdrew. No more random kisses in the kitchen. No more, hey, I saw this meme and thought of you. No more, text me when you get home so I know you're safe. The small, invisible threads that had once tied us together were being quietly snipped, one by one. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that he'd get over it, that love was stronger than one stupid sentence, that deep down he knew I didn't mean it. What I didn't realize was that, from his perspective, that sentence wasn't a random slip. It was a reveal, a glimpse behind the curtain at how I truly saw him, as something I might have settled for. And once he'd seen that, he couldn't unsee it. The day everything finally snapped, it didn't look dramatic at first. There was no massive fight, no broken plates, no screaming match. It started with laundry. Literally, I was folding clothes on the couch. He sat opposite me, scrolling his phone. The TV was on in the background, some forgettable show. I watched him for a moment. The line between his brows, the way his jaw flexed when he was concentrating, the faint shadow of stubble. I miss you, I said suddenly. He looked up. I'm right here, he replied. You know that's not what I mean. He sighed and put his phone down. What do you want me to say? He asked. I want you to yell at me, I blurted, or forgive me or something. I can't stand this. Nothing. He was quiet for a long beat. Then he said very slowly, like he was choosing every word carefully. Do you know what it feels like to stand in front of the person you married and hear them say they wish they'd chosen someone else? I opened my mouth to interrupt. He held up a hand. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty, he went on. I'm telling you why I'm like this. I always knew your ex was a chapter in your life. I knew he existed. I knew you loved him once. That didn't bother me. We all have a past. But I thought I was the person you chose after that. The one you picked, knowing what you didn't want anymore. You are, I said quickly. You were. But when I asked you if you still wanted this, he continued, voice calm, you didn't say, yes, but I'm struggling. You didn't say, I'm tired, but I love you. You went straight to comparing me to him. That tells me something about where your mind goes when you're squeezed. It was one moment, I said weakly. Moments reveal us, he replied softly. We don't always say what we want to say, but we often say what we really think when we slip. I felt my defensive walls start to crack. Tears burned my eyes. Are you leaving me? I asked in a small voice. He looked away. I don't know yet, he said. I just know I can't unhear those words. I can't go back to being the guy who blindly believes he's enough for you. Because now I know, in the back of your mind, there is a version of your life where you think you might have been happier with someone else. That's not true, I whispered. I don't even like my ex anymore. If you knew how he treated me. I do know, he said. You've told me. And that makes it even worse. Because after everything he did, there's still a part of you that thinks maybe. It landed like a punch. I hadn't realized how much my casual maybe really said. We stared at each other. I love you, I said finally. Isn't that worth working on? He smiled sadly. I loved you as someone I believed chose me, he said. Now I feel like the safe stop between you and your regret. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. Work group chat. He glanced at it, then stood up. I have to finish something for tomorrow, he said. We'll talk later. Spoiler, we didn't. Not that night. Not properly. A few days after that, he asked me to sit down at the table. Can we talk? He said. My stomach twisted. Not the we need milk kind of talk. The other kind. What is it? I asked, sitting opposite him. He folded his hands like he was about to deliver a verdict. I've been thinking a lot, he said. About us, about what you said, about what it did to me. I already told you. I know what you told me, he cut in gently. That you didn't mean it, that it was heat of the moment, that everyone says things they regret. I've memorized your explanations, even if I haven't heard an actual apology. That stung. I have apologized, I protested. I've tried to show you. You've tried to move past it, he corrected, not own it. Silence. He took a breath. I shouldn't have to wonder, he said, voice trembling slightly now. If I'm the second choice in my own marriage, I shouldn't have to lie in bed next to you and think, if her ex knocked on the door right now with a ring, would she go? I wouldn't, I said instantly. You say that, he replied, looking straight into my eyes. But when you were raw and unfiltered, that's where your mind went. Not to losing me, to losing that what if with him. I wanted to scream that he was wrong, that he was twisting it, that he was making this bigger than it had to be. But deep down, a small, uncomfortable voice whispered, you liked knowing there was still a version of you that could have chosen differently. You liked the idea that you were the one with options. I can't live with that question hanging over my head, he said finally. I can't be with someone who would weaponize an old relationship to make me feel small. So, what are you saying? I asked, throat tight. He swallowed. I'm saying... He looked at his hands. I think we need space, real space, not just sleeping back to back and pretending this is fine. No, I said immediately. No, we can go to therapy. We can work on communication. I can prove... He shook his head. I shouldn't have to be proved to, he murmured. You should already know. My heart pounded in my ears. I'm not giving up my marriage because I said one stupid sentence, I said, panic rising. I refuse. You don't get to just walk away and make me the villain when you could try. I've been trying, he said quietly. For weeks. By staying. By talking when I really wanted to shut down completely. By trying to be kind when I felt humiliated. But at some point, I have to choose myself too. He stood up. The conversation was over. At least for him. For me, it had just begun. The next day, I stayed late at work, partly because I had things to finish, mostly because I didn't want to go home and face the thick, suffocating silence that had become our normal. I texted him around 6. I'll be home by 8. Do you want anything? No response. I convinced myself he was busy, driving, in a meeting. At 7:45, I pulled into our driveway. At first, I thought someone had delivered a package and left it by the door. Then my brain caught up. It wasn't a package. It was my suitcase. The blue one I'd used when we went on our honeymoon. It was propped up against the front steps, handle extended, like it was waiting for me, like it had been placed there carefully. On top of it, neatly folded, was my jacket, and taped to the handle, with the kind of deliberate precision that told me he'd thought about this, planned it, was the note. Go to the man you should have chosen. For a second, everything went quiet. The street, the world, my own heartbeat. This isn't happening, I whispered. My hands were already shaking as I picked up the note. The words blurred and sharpened again. I dropped my bag. I left my car door open. I rushed up the steps and grabbed the suitcase handle. It was heavy. It wasn't just symbolic. He'd actually packed my things. I yanked open the front door. Locked. I rang the doorbell. Nothing. I knocked. Hard. Open the door, I called. This isn't funny. Footsteps inside. Relief flooded me for a brief, stupid moment. Then his voice came through the door. Calm. Too calm. I'm not joking, he said. You don't live here anymore. My mouth went dry. What? I've put together what you'll need for at least a few weeks, he continued. Clothes, toiletries, laptop. I'll transfer some money to your account to help you get a place or stay somewhere until you figure things out. Are you insane? I yelled. You can't just put my suitcase on the porch and lock me out like a stray dog. We're married. Exactly, he said softly. And married people shouldn't say they wish they'd married someone else. Something inside me snapped. That's rich, I spat. So you get to decide when the marriage ends. You get to throw me out like trash because your ego got bruised. There was a beat of silence. When he spoke again, his voice shook, not with anger, but with hurt. My ego, he repeated. You think this is about my ego? Yes, I shouted, grasping at anything that wasn't my own guilt. You're overreacting. You're turning one sentence into a whole drama. You're making yourself the wounded hero while I'm the villain, and it's not fair. I heard a deep breath. I'm not trying to be a hero, he said quietly. I'm trying not to spend the rest of my life wondering if my wife secretly wishes she was with someone else. I told you I don't, I cried. How many times do I have to? It's not about how many times you tell me, he cut in. It's about what you revealed when you weren't carefully choosing your words. That's what I can't move past. Tears burned my eyes. Please, I said, voice cracking. Please open the door. We can talk about this like adults. We've been talking, he said, for weeks, and every time you've defended yourself instead of really seeing what you did to me. I started to panic. I'll apologize, I said desperately. I'll say the words exactly how you want. I'll go to therapy. I'll block my ex on everything. This isn't about him, he said. It's about you and me, about what you were willing to say to me, about how little you seem to understand how much it would hurt. I deserve to be with someone who chooses me without hesitation, who doesn't use their past as a weapon when they're frustrated. His voice broke on the last word. I pressed my forehead against the door. I choose you, I whispered. Silence. No, he said eventually. You chose me on the day we got married, but when it really counted, when I asked if you still wanted this, you chose to say his name instead. My knees buckled. I slid down the door until I was sitting on the cold porch, tears spilling over. You can't do this, I sobbed. You can't just lock me out of my own life. The papers will come in a few weeks, he said quietly. I'm not doing this to be cruel. I'm doing this because I respect myself enough not to live with someone who doesn't truly value me. I grabbed the door handle and twisted it uselessly. Please, I begged, please don't give up on us. Please don't give up on me. There was another long silence. Then, I gave you so many chances to understand, he said softly. I told you how much it hurt. I told you how it made me feel. Every time you minimized it, deflected, justified. I can't be the only one protecting this marriage. I heard footsteps moving away. Don't walk away from me, I cried, pounding on the wood. You can't just end this because your feelings got hurt. The words tasted bitter the moment they left my mouth. Exactly, he said, voice faint now, further down the hall. You still think it's just my feelings being hurt. That's the problem. Then nothing. No more footsteps, no more voice. Just me, my suitcase, and the sound of my own breathing. I don't know how long I sat there. At some point, a neighbor walked by and pretended not to stare. A car drove past slowly, then sped up like they felt guilty for looking. Eventually, I picked up the suitcase with numb fingers, walked back to my car, and put it in the trunk. I drove to a cheap motel that night, the kind with scratchy sheets and fluorescent lighting that makes you look worse than you already feel. I checked in, dragged my suitcase up the stairs, and collapsed on the bed. I didn't cry then. I was past crying. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left just enough of me to feel the echo of the pain. My phone buzzed with messages from Mia. Hey, are you okay? You missed our call. Are you home? Want to talk? I stared at the screen and finally typed, he packed my suitcase and locked me out. She called instantly. I let it ring twice before answering. What happened? She demanded. I told her everything. The note, the locked door, the conversation through the wood, the way he said he deserved someone who chose him. There was a long silence on her end. What are you thinking? I asked, voice small. I'm thinking, she sighed. I told you that sentence was dangerous. I know, I snapped. You don't have to say I told you so. I'm not trying to, she said gently. I can't say he's completely unreasonable. He set a boundary. It's extreme, but I get it. So you're on his side, I said bitterly. I'm not on anyone's side, she replied. I'm watching my friend deal with the consequences of something she didn't take seriously until it was too late. I covered my face with my hands. Do you think I deserve this? I whispered. Honestly. She was quiet for a moment. I think, she said slowly, that you're finally feeling the weight of what your words can do, and it hurts like hell. And no, I don't think you deserve to be thrown away like trash, but I also don't think he has to stay and keep pretending he's okay being your second choice. He's not my second choice, I protested, tears spilling now. I don't even want my ex. I don't love him. I haven't for years. Then why did you say it? She asked softly. There it was, the question, the one I'd been dodging even from myself. Because, I took a shuddering breath, because I wanted him to fight for me, to feel like he could lose me, to stop taking me for granted. And now, she asked. Now I've lost him, I whispered. The irony was cruel enough to be almost funny. Over the next few weeks, I lived in a blur of temporary couches and short-term rentals. Mia let me stay with her for a while. I slept on her pull-out sofa and woke up every morning, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck made of regret. Our mutual friends started to weigh in. Some messaged me privately. He shouldn't have just locked you out. That's harsh. You guys should talk, not jump straight to divorce. Others were more blunt. You really told him that, dude? If my husband said that to me, I'd be gone too. One friend said the thing that finally broke me. That sentence can break someone. It doesn't matter if you meant it or not. Some words don't come back. Meanwhile, I watched his life continue without me through the only window I had left. Social media. He didn't block me. That hurt more than if he had. It meant he wasn't trying to punish me. He was just living. He started going to the gym again. At first, it was just a selfie in the locker room mirror, captioned, "Trying to do one good thing for myself today." Then, weeks later, a photo of him and some guys from work after a charity run. His face was flushed, sweaty, but he looked lighter. There was a comment from one of his colleagues. "You look alive again, man." Alive again. As if being with me had drained the life out of him. Maybe it had. I scrolled through those photos in the dark, alone in a bed that wasn't mine, in an apartment that wasn't home. and felt something I'd never really let myself feel before. Shame. Not the performative, ugh, I'm such a mess lol kind. Real shame. The kind that makes you look at your own reflection and flinch. I replayed that dinner in my head 1,000 times. Him asking, "Do you still want this?" Me laughing and saying, "Maybe I should have married my ex instead." How arrogant I'd been. How casual. How confident that no matter what I said, he'd stay. That he'd always be there, orbiting my moods, absorbing my sharpness. I realized something else too. I didn't want my ex back, not even a little. I didn't miss his face, his voice, his touch. What I missed was what I thought that relationship represented. Being chased, being pursued, being the one who could say yes or no. With my husband, I'd gotten lazy. I knew he loved me. I knew he was steady, loyal, reliable. And somewhere deep down, I'd translated that into, I can say anything and he'll forgive me. I used his love as a safety net while I did emotional acrobatics above it. And then one day, the net was gone. A few months later, when the divorce papers finally arrived in my temporary mailbox, my hands shook so badly I almost dropped them, seeing it printed in black and white. Irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. Felt like someone writing the final line of a story I hadn't finished reading. I signed them eventually. What choice did I have? You can't make someone stay with you just because you suddenly realize the value of what you had after you smashed it. I wish I could tell you that we had a dramatic movie-like reunion where I gave a heartfelt monologue about my growth, and he forgave me, and we hugged in the rain. We didn't. We met once in a lawyer's office to finalize some details. He was polite, kind even, asked how I was. I lied and said, fine. He lied and said, fine, back. As we were leaving, I blurted, I didn't mean it. He paused with his hand on the door. I know, he said. Hope flickered in my chest. Then, but it doesn't matter, he added gently. You still said it. And every time I tried to explain how much it hurt, you explained it away instead of truly seeing me. I can't forget that. I swallowed hard. I miss you, I whispered. He smiled sadly. I miss who we were before that night, he said, but I don't think we can be them again. He left. I walked out a few minutes later, my legs feeling like they might give out at any second. So here I am, telling you this story from the other side of my own stupidity. I started this video defending myself, saying, people say things they don't mean when they're hurt, trying to convince you, and myself, that I wasn't that bad. That I didn't deserve to have my suitcase on the porch and my marriage on the line over one sentence. But now? Now I sit with my regret like it's a roommate. I think about him sometimes, not as the one who left me, but as the man I underestimated, the man who loved me enough to demand to be chosen fully, and loved himself enough to leave when he wasn't. I still have that note, you know. Go to the man you should have chosen. I don't want that man. I never did. What I wanted was the illusion of being above it all, of being the one with options, of holding the power. In the end, I lost the one person who actually showed up, paid the bills, made the coffee, asked how I was, and meant it. Now, when I sit next to my suitcase, wherever it happens to be, in the fading light, staring at whatever door I'm currently calling home, I hear my own voice from that night and want to reach through time and throttle myself. I didn't mean it, I whisper to the empty room. And the worst part? The universe whispers back, it doesn't matter,